Hi everyone, welcome to today's physiology lecture. I am Vimla Rani, tutor, Department of Physiology, Sree Balaji Medical College and Hospital, Chennai. Now let's get into the today's topic, cell membrane and channels. So under this topic, we will be seeing certain objectives. You will be learning about what is meant by the cell membrane, what are the composition of the cell membrane, what are the models that is being given according to the cell membrane, and we will be seeing about all the composition one by one. You will be learning about the lipids, types of the lipids, and how the core part of the cell membrane function, and then we will be seeing about the proteins that make up the cell membrane, types of proteins, under which we will be discussing about all the channels. Under channels you will be seeing about gated channels and ungated channels, and then we will be discussing about all the receptor proteins, enzyme proteins, carrier proteins. Then we will be seeing about peripheral proteins. Then we will finish up with the membrane carbohydrates. So let's get into the topic, cell membrane. So as you all know, the cell, any cell when we take, it is being protected by the cell membrane. Example, animal cells. So what you are seeing here is a simple cell structure which is being protected by the cell membrane. So I have given the picture here. So let us see what are the other names for the cell membrane. Cell membrane, it is also known as unit membrane, and it is also called as limiting membrane. Why it is called as limiting membrane? Because not all the substances can get into the cell membrane. It is going to act as barrier. So only certain substances can pass through. Though it is going to act as barrier, it also contains certain receptors, enzymes. So everything, all the proteins has been present, via which some substances can easily enter into the cell membrane. So let me tell again. This cell membrane, it is also known as limiting membrane because it is going to act as barrier. It allows certain substances to pass through it, as I said. So it is semi-permeable in nature. Coming to the thickness of the cell membrane, it is about 7.5 to 10 nanometer in thickness. It is very thin layer which is very pliable and elastic in nature. So our cell membrane, it is naturally fluid in nature. It is semi-fluid in nature. So this fluidity, it can easily able to mobilize. So what is the significance of this fluidity nature means? It is going to facilitate endocytosis. Hope you know about endocytosis. Any substance, if it wants to get into the cell, it enters via this process, endocytosis. Then any substance that is being produced by the cell. Take some example like hormones. If it want to leave out the cell, it is going to exit out by the process known as exocytosis. So both this process, that is endocytosis and exocytosis, this is possible because of the fluid nature of the cell membrane. Then apart from this, what it is going to help? It is going to help in membrane biogenesis, which means from the parental cells, the daughter cells will be formed. So let me tell again the characteristic feature of the fluid nature of the cell membrane. It is going to help in endocytosis process, exocytosis process and membrane biogenesis. Let us see the factors which is going to affect this fluidity. There are certain factors. First one is temperature. As you all know, when the temperature increases, the fluidity nature also will increase. Then coming to the cholesterol. The cholesterols, it will be present in the cell membrane. It will be interlocked in between the phospholipids. So what will happen when the cholesterol level increases? It is going to arrest the movement of the substances that is present that makes up the cell membrane. So when the cholesterol level increases, naturally the fluidity level will decrease. Then unsaturated fatty acids. This unsaturated fatty acid, when it is present more, it is going to increase the fluidity. So the temperature and unsaturated fatty acid, when it gets increased, the fluidity nature of the cell membrane also will be increased. Cholesterol level, when it increases, the fluidity nature of the cell membrane will decrease. Next, the cell membrane, it is bilayered in nature. That is, it is double layered. What it is made up of? You can see in this picture, all the yellow color, what I have given here is nothing but the phospholipids. So it is making up the outer layer and inner layer of the cell membrane. So this bilayered structure, it is mainly made up of the most abundant one that is present here is phospholipids. Apart from phospholipids, you can see the cell membrane, the purple color what I have given here is nothing but the proteins. It also make up the cell membrane and then the carbohydrates. So our cell membrane, it is bilayered, made up of phospholipids, what is given in yellow color, and then the proteins and then the carbohydrates. Coming to the composition. All the substances that make up the cell membrane, about 55% of the cell membrane, it is made up of proteins. 42% it is made up of lipids. So I will say the lipids, phospholipids 25%, cholesterol 13% and other lipids 4%. All these lipids, about 42% will constitute the membrane of the cell. So we have to accept the triglycerides, all these lipids will make up the cell membrane. Then 3% carbohydrate also present in the cell membrane. So this is with the composition of the cell membrane. Now we will see about the lipids. Let us discuss about the lipids. There are three main types of lipids that make up our cell membrane. First one is the phospholipids. Phospholipids we will see in detail in the next part. Now, the second lipid which is going to make up the cell membrane is sphingolipids, which is present in a very meager level. It is mainly present in the nerve cells. So, what is the use of this sphingolipid means? It is going to help in signal transmission. And it also going to protect the entire nerve cell, and the sphingolipid, it is going to act as binding site for certain extracellular proteins. Then the third lipid is cholesterol. As I have said earlier, this cholesterol, it is going to help in controlling the fluid nature of the cell membrane. So these are the main type of lipids. Now let us see the phospholipids in detail. So this picture which is given here, it explains about the phospholipids. So what you can see here, this is the phospholipid molecule. It is made up of two parts. One is the head part and another one is the tail part. As I have given here, the head part, it is mainly made up of phosphate group. And this head part, when you see, it is hydrophilic in nature, that it is water loving. Hydro means water, philic is attraction, that is water loving part. So this phosphate head part, no, it will be facing the fluid that is present in the extracellular space and the intracellular space. That is, this phosphate head will be facing the extracellular fluid and also it will face the intracellular fluid. Now the second part is the tail part, which is made up of fatty acids. This is hydrophobic in nature, that is, it is water fearing. So it is always packed in between the phosphate, that is, it is packed between the head. It is present in the center portion. So the main core part of the cell membrane, it is mainly made up of lipids only. So as I said, the core part of the cell membrane, it is made up of lipids. So we have seen the phospholipids. So since it is made up of lipids, all the lipid soluble substances can easily pass through the cell membrane. So our cell membrane, it is permeable to the lipid soluble substances. Example, you can take oxygen, alcohol, etc. So without any barrier, they can easily get into the cell because our core part of the cell membrane, it is made up of lipids. But So you have seen the phospholipids, it is though it is looking similar, that is the outer portion of the phospholipid and inner portion of this phospholipid, though it is looking similar, it is asymmetrical in nature because all the lipids that make up the phospholipid, they are different. That is the outer portion and inner portion of the phosphate group, it is made up of different phospholipids. Then the protein that is being attached to the phospholipid, it also varies. Apart from that, the carbohydrate moiety that is being attached only to the outer portion of the phospholipid, not to the inner portion. So all this will give a difference to the, that is, it make up the phospholipid asymmetrical in nature. So we have seen about the phospholipids. Now let us get into the membrane proteins. So this picture, it gives you an idea about the proteins. Any larger molecule, as I said earlier, the lipid soluble substances can easily get into the cell membrane through the lipid bilayer. Yes. Now, how do these proteins get through it? What is this protein? It is nothing but a larger molecule. It is a charged one. So if it wants to get into it, any larger substances, if it wants to get into the cell, it needs some support. So our membrane proteins will help in it. So there are two types of membrane proteins, integral protein, which is also known as transmembrane protein, and then the peripheral protein. So any larger molecule or the charged one, if it wants to get transported across the cell membrane, this will happen through the membrane proteins. Where do this membrane protein present? They are floating over the lipid bilayer. So this floating, they act as the lipid raft. So this floating and the cell membrane structure is being explained by many models. The most significant model is the model which is given by Singer and Nicholson. He has proposed the fluid mosaic model. So he has given the cell membrane as semi-fluid in nature and all the proteins and carbohydrates will be floating over it. There are also so many models like unit membrane model. Now we will see about the types of proteins. First we will see about the integral proteins. As I have said earlier, this is also known as transmembrane proteins. So where it is present? It is present through the cell membrane. That is, it is facing both the extracellular part and intracellular part of the cell membrane. Under integral proteins, there are so many types. We will see one by one. The first one is the channel proteins. What is this channel proteins? Nothing but the ionic channel. You would have known, like we have channels like sodium channel, potassium channel, calcium channel. Via this channel, all the ions will be entering into the cell and they will be exiting out of the cell. So under channel proteins, we will see about the gated channels and ungated channels. Gated channels. So as you all know, gate, it is a way through which we can get in and get out. So here also the channel is being guided by the gate. So this gate will open only in response to certain stimulus. Then they will close. So under gated channel, we will be seeing about voltage gated channels, ligand gated channel and mechanically gated channel. The other channel is ungated channels. They don't have any gate. It is always an open channel. First, we will see about voltage gated channels. What is this voltage gated channel? It is a type of transmembrane protein. So this channel is guarded by a gate. This gate will open only in response to the change in the electrochemical gradient, or if there is any change in the electric membrane potential, and the potential present inside and outside of the cell that gets changed only in response to the transmembrane potential change, this gate will open. So the gate is given in blue color. So when this gate opens, what will happen? The ions can easily get into the cell. When the transmembrane potential changes again, this gate will close. So example for voltage gated channel is sodium channel, potassium channel and calcium channels. Next channel we are going to see is ligand gated channels. First I will tell what is meant by ligand. Ligand is nothing but a type of protein. This ligand, example you can take the hormones or neurotransmitters. So what do these ligands do? These ligands, they have a specific space or they have a binding site over the gate that is present in the cell membrane. So ligand gated channels also come under the category transmembrane protein only. So this gate, they have a ligand binding site. Example, when the ligand comes and bind over the ligand binding site, what will happen? This gate will open. When the gate opens, whatever ions that wants to get into the channel, they can easily get into it. This channel will open only for a certain time. When the ligand gets removed from the binding site, automatically the channel will close. So this channel is mainly guarded by the ligands. Next is the mechanically gated channels. What does this mechanical term indicates? Nothing but the pressure. So this channel, it also come under the category transmembrane protein only. How do this gate open? This gate will open in response to the physical force that is being given. Example, you can take some stretch or pressure, vibration, a mere touch. All this will act as the mechanical or physical force. So when force is applied, automatically this gate will open. When the gate opens, what will happen? Whatever substance wants to get into it, they will enter into the cell membrane and cause some change. Now when you remove the physical force, what will happen? The gate will close. So under gated channels, we have seen about voltage gated channel, and we have seen about ligand gated channel and mechanically gated channels. So all this, they have a common thing, that is the gate will open only to a particular stimulus. When the stimulus is removed, the gate will close. Only when the gate opens, the substances can enter in. When gate closes, they cannot exit out, or they cannot enter in. Next one is ungated channels. They don't have these channels. They also come under the category transmembrane protein only. They don't have anyone to guard them. It is always an open channel, or they are also called as leaky channels. So always kept open. Whatever ions wants to enter in, they can easily enter in and exit out of the cell. Now we will see about the carrier proteins. This also come under the category integral proteins. What is this carrier protein? I have given the picture here. So carrier proteins, how do they help? Any substances which is present in the extracellular fluid, if it wants to get into the inner part of the cell, if the substance is in larger size, they cannot easily get into the cell. Now what this carrier protein will do? When the substance, example, for any solute you take, when the solute wants to get in, these solutes will come and bind over the carrier proteins. The moment the solute comes and bind over the carrier protein, a conformational change will happen in the carrier protein. It undergoes some structural change. Now what it will do? It will transport whatever solute that is binded to them. It will transport the substance all through the cell membrane and give it to the inner part of the cell. So easily the larger substances can pass through it. So this is the function done by the carrier proteins. Carrier proteins also come under the category transmembrane protein or integral protein. The third type is enzyme proteins. It is also one of the type of integral proteins. So as you all know, what is the function of enzyme? Enzyme, it is always going to catalyze any reaction. Now what do this enzyme protein do? It will convert one form of a substance into another form. So it always helping in conversion of a form from one form to the another form. Next comes our receptor proteins. What is this receptors? So under which first receptor protein will come under the category integral protein only. Under this you will be there are two types of receptors. One is membrane bound receptors. Nothing but these receptors will be present over the surface of the cell membrane itself. Next one is the cytosolic receptors. It is present mainly in the cytoplasm of the cell, or sometimes the receptor will be present at the nucleus level. So these are the types of receptors. What do this receptor protein do? So in this picture you can see the receptor is coated in the color. So receptor, it is present in the cell membrane. So it is under the category membrane bound receptor. So any substances or solutes or ligands, if it want to enter into the cell, what will happen? The substances will come and bind over the receptors. The receptor, it has the binding site for that particular substance. So when the substance come and bind over the receptor, substance receptor complex will be formed. This makes a change in the receptor. So whenever an extra stimulus is given, what will happen? This extracellular stimulus will produce an intracellular response. So this receptor will produce a response inside the cell, which is known as intracellular response. So the last protein that comes under integral protein is cytoskeletal protein. This cytoskeletal protein, it is nothing but a dynamic network of interlinking protein filaments. Example, you can see the cytoskeletal protein. It is made up of microtubules, actin filaments, etc. So what it is going to do, the cytoskeletal proteins, what it is going to do, it is going to maintain the shape of the cell membrane or shape of the cell, and then it is going to help in migration of the cell from one place to the other. Apart from that, it is also going to provide a mechanical resistance to any deformity that is given to the cell. So this is the function done by the cytoskeletal protein. So till now we have seen about the integral proteins, nothing but the transmembrane proteins. Now we will be seeing about the peripheral proteins. These peripheral proteins, it is very weak, it is loosely attached to the cell membrane. Like integral proteins, they are not very strong. Integral proteins, they are very strong in nature. What they will do, only when the cell gets disrupted, at the time only the integral proteins will undergo denaturation. But the peripheral proteins, it is very loose. It is loosely bound to the cell membrane. So easily get detached from the cell membrane also. This peripheral proteins, where it is present either in the outer surface of the cell membrane or in the inner surface of the cell membrane. So it is attached to only one surface of the cell membrane. What it is going to do? It is going to act as enzymes. So it is going to help in conversion of a larger molecule or conversion of any substance into its another form. Then it also functions as cytoskeleton. That is, it is going to help in maintaining the shape. It is going to offer some protection to the cell membrane. Then this peripheral proteins, it is also attached to the integral proteins. So we have seen about the lipids, we have seen about the proteins that make up the cell membrane. The last thing that makes up the cell membrane is your carbohydrate, nothing but membrane carbohydrates. So you can see in this picture, it is given in green color. All this dark green indicates the carbohydrates. So when this carbohydrates, where it is present only in the outer surface, these carbohydrates. When the carbohydrate is attached to the proteins, if it is attached to integral protein or if it is attached to the peripheral protein, it is known as glycoprotein. Those carbohydrates, it is attached to the phospholipids, we call it as glycolipids. They are present only in the outer surface of the cell. What is the function of this carbohydrate? As the carbohydrates are made up of negative charge, it is going to repel the negative particles that is getting into the cell. Then apart from that, it is also going to help in attaching the cell, one cell to the another cell. Then apart from that, this carbohydrate, it is going to act as a receptor. That is, if any hormone, if it wants to enter into the cell, it is going to act as a receptor for that particular hormone and help in binding of that hormone. So these are the functions of the carbohydrates. Hope you all understood the today's class. So let me sum up the topics, whatever we have seen under this. We have seen about the cell membrane, what it is made up of, and we have seen about the composition. We have learned about the proteins, types of proteins which make up the cell membrane, and we have seen about the core part of the cell membrane, what it is made up of. We have seen about the lipid drafts, and then under proteins we have seen about all the channels, that is gated channel and ungated channels we have seen, and then we have seen about the membrane carbohydrates, how it is going to help in making up the cell membrane. Thank you.